Shalom WJC family. It is time for our weekly Torah talk. This week in Shul, we are reading Parshiot Behar and Behukkotai, a double portion that brings us to the end of the book of Leviticus. I want to focus in on a particular concept. You may have heard of the Prosperity Gospel, an idea in Christianity usually, but could be any religion, that you will know that God loves you if you are getting rewards. Right? And vis-a-vis that, if you do the right thing, you can expect rewards. Right? If you win the lottery, you must be living right. And if you're living right, you're going to win the lottery. Now, most people would not consider this a Jewish idea. This is not a popular idea in Jewish thought. However, it does come up, and I recognize it today in a message from my teacher, Rabbi Mordechai Silverstein. So in his drush, he first takes a pasuk, a verse from our Torah portion. If your kinsman, this is Leviticus 25:35, V'chi yamuch achicha, if your kinsman, being in straits, right, they're poor, comes under your authority, right? They maybe had to sell themselves into your service or something, and you hold him as though a resident alien, so they're going to live on your property and work for you as if they did not have a portion in the land of Israel, which all Jewish people are supposed to have. Let him live by your side. Do not exact from him advance or accrued interest, right? So don't take advantage of the situation. Don't charge interest on the time they spent there. Don't put him like far away. He's got to live with the other Jewish people. And ultimately, why? Rather than do that, fear God. Let him live by your side as your kinsman. There's an approach of a society to the poor. Right? Ultimately, there are those who will come into dire straits, and you have to take care of them. Why? Because you should fear God. So Rabbi Silverstein quoted a midrash on Proverbs. So there's a verse in Proverbs that says, "Do not rob the poor, for he is poor." It's funny, what does it mean to rob the poor because he's poor? And the midrash continues, "For I have made him poor. Anyone who robs him or mocks the poor man reviles his maker." Now, this sounds a lot like the prosperity gospel, right? That I made a poor man poor, right? This is Tevye, and if I were a rich man, right? God, you made me poor, and I know that that's no great disrespect, but it wouldn't be so bad if you made me rich. I try and do the right things. That's the prosperity gospel. It sounds a lot like the prosperity gospel. So the midrash goes on. So what do you mean, do not rob the poor because he was poor? Who's going to rob the poor? What does he have to rob, the midrash asks. He doesn't have anything. Rather, goes on the midrash, if you were accustomed to maintaining him, meaning if you were taking care of him, giving tzedakah, if he was living as a tenant on your land, and then you said, I've been doing this for too long, I'm going to stop. If you do this, it's like you're robbing him. What does that mean, it's like you're robbing him? That doesn't really make sense. It's your money. No, but you are responsible. You have been put through your wealth in the position to take care of your poor kinsman. Right? So what is this ultimately trying to say? What is this ultimately trying to say? It's trying to remind us not so much that God makes you poor because you're bad or rich because you're wealthy. This is not the prosperity gospel the midrash is telling us. It's actually what I would call the disparity gospel. Right? That inevitably in a society, some people are going to have more and some people are going to have less. And it is part of the job of those who have more to close the gap of the disparity between the two. And in that sense, we should consider as if our wealth is not our own but came from God. Not because we're so good, but because God has a purpose for us with that wealth. and it is to distribute it to those who need it. In that sense, we are God's tools. And furthermore, it's not that God doesn't take care of the poor because God is angry with them for some reason. No, God put you here, if you have means, to take care of those who don't. That is part of the job. So because we fear God, because everything comes back to God, all of our material goods are borrowed, so to speak, from God, not in a system of reward and punishment like the prosperity gospel, but as a way of taking care of everybody on earth by closing that disparity, the disparity gospel, that ultimately it is our job to take care of someone who is in need, so much so that, as the Midrash teaches us, to stop doing that, to withhold tzedakah when we could give it, is like robbing that poor person. Right? So again, not prosperity gospel, disparity gospel. In Judaism, our job is to take care of each other, to take care of those who are in need, to help close that disparity gap through giving tzedakah, through taking care of those who are poor, doing it with dignity, doing it every day, consistently. And as such, everybody in a society can live, everyone in a society can feel that they have a place in that society, and everybody, most importantly in that society, will feel the prosperity of God's love, either because of the grace of God with which they enjoy their own means, or because those who give tzedakah become a tool of God's grace as they distribute to those who have less. Ultimately, the disparity gospel builds a society where everyone can feel God's love. Everybody can feel God's care, sometimes through grace and sometimes through us. And Behar-Behukkotai, this idea, this midrash is telling us, reminding us that this is our task, to be God's tool in bringing the disparity gospel to the fore and helping for everyone in the world to feel the grace of God's love. Shabbat Shalom.